Hi everyone. This is my Webquest. I decided to create a project that has to do with what my students are going to be working on post high school. I currently am teaching a course called Applied Mathematics, which is composed of juniors and seniors that are very low, and they're almost stuck as to what courses that they could possibly take in the remainder of their high school careers. They would not be able to fit within the normal junior or senior track. So our school created a course called Applied Math. There's not really a set curriculum. It really is to focus on any career life skills, any consumer math skills that they'll have to use in their future. So I tried to put together a Webquest that would spark their interests, something that they're going to be working with very soon, depending if they're a junior or senior right now. But I decided to create a Webquest where they are to be working with two other students who are pretending to be their future roommates at college, and they're going to create a perfect dorm room for themselves. So they're going to have to use their creativity and any skills that we've used in class to help them get there. They'll be focusing on using ratios and proportions, and any consumer math skills, budgeting we've talked about for a large part of the school year. So they'll be kind of tying all those together to help them work through the specific Webquest. So my introduction, I want to make it as appealing as I can to them. I would start off having a class discussion with them and just asking, where they see themselves at college, what expectations do they have, what are they hoping for, what do they know already. Maybe they have older siblings or older friends who are already at college, just to tie them and get them interested a little bit as to what they're doing. But kind of, the scenario of what's happening is they're receiving a scholarship for $5,000, and they're to use that to furnish a 15 by 15 foot dorm room at the college of their choice. So them and two students who also have the same scholarship were put together in a dorm room, and they're going to use their creativity to create the dorm of their dreams while remaining in budget. My time frame for this is probably going to be 2 weeks. That might be changed or altered in some sort of way. If other teachers, would wish to use this, obviously depending on their level of students, you can either shorten that time frame or make it a little longer. That's up to the teacher. So part of the tasks, like I said, their job is to create that perfect dorm room for themselves. What they'll need to do is, shop online or even in person if they have, a car, they're able to get there. But they're to come up with any necessary items that they're going to need for their dorm room. With those items, they'll have to create an Excel spreadsheet. This helps them remain organized, which typically students in this low-level class need that organization. So by telling them that they have to have an Excel spreadsheet requires that organization. They'll have to record what they've spent, how much they have left to spend. They'll have to create a floor plan. Doesn't have to be as exact as this one here, but just some sort of idea as to what their dorm room would look like, what would be in it, what necessities would be in it. And while we're remaining in that $5,000 budget, I would like them to spend as close to that amount as possible without going over. Because typically as scholarships work, if you don't use all of that money, you don't get cash back. So whatever money they don't spend is just wasted. So part of that rubric system towards the end is spending as close as they can to $5,000 without going over. They're going to have to work collaboratively. They will have 3 different jobs individually, but for the first step, they will be working together. So I think it's really critical for the students to talk with one another and see, who has what specific skills, because I think that'll help them decide which job title they would want for themselves. Those three options are going to be being either the shopper, the accountant, or the designer. So, with all different student interests, they might find that they have one for each type, or maybe they'll just have to settle on being one or the other. But I just like to mention, just remember whatever you pick, you're settled with, because, you can't just trade jobs, in the real world. It does take some time, obviously, but they have to kind of pick and just stay with that role. So just keeping in mind for them, they have to, use their creativity. At the end of the task, they will be presenting their final project to the class, showing their list of any purchased items, their floor plan, and their budget workbook. So part of the process, they will be doing some brainstorming. As I mentioned, they won't be separated into their job titles just yet. But they're going to need to just jot down any ideas they have individually for what they think their perfect dorm room would look like. Which furniture items, any decorative items, how many windows they want, how many closets. These are all things that students may not think of when deciding that they're going to create, a dorm room from scratch. Once they have those, places that they've possibly seen this perfect dorm room, maybe in a movie or a friend's or a sibling's dorm room, they're going to come back together and take their ideas. Maybe they'll have some similarities with their partners. Who knows, three of you could want the exact same dorm room. So if it's the case that you don't agree on some things, then they'll have to obviously figure out, what could you put on the back burner, what's okay to scratch off, like what's a necessity. So it's just good communication skills for these students. I do provide a couple websites that I think would be helpful for them to get started. The first one here, designyourdorm.com, was kind of what sparked me into thinking about using this Webquest, because, a lot of these things the students don't think about when they're going away to college, so I think it's a really good idea for them to kind of look through and see everything that does go into creating a room, and how much it takes to make it your perfect dorm room. Some of these here are apps, or they take you to other apps that you can use on your cell phone or your iPad that helps you create that floor plan. They don't have to use an app, but some of them might feel that it's better since these students are, usually typically tech savvy, but they can just draw their rough sketch on graph paper. Once they have their final layout, I just want them to answer these two questions. How does their layout compare to their current bedroom at home? Because this might be very interesting to hear, because these students in this district are very wealthy, and I'm sure their bedrooms are pretty large, and for them to go from whatever they have at home to a 15 by 15 foot dorm room with two roommates might be just a little shocker to them. So it might have to affect what they perceive as the perfect dorm room. And then just answering how close is what your sketch is to your idea of a perfect dorm room. Then they'll break up into their three jobs. The shopper will obviously go and find items either online or in person. I will provide some shopping advertisements for them to look at as well. Any item that they buy that's $100 or more, they'll have to present a picture with the final project. The accountant is responsible for keeping the shopper within budget, keeping track on that Excel spreadsheet. They have to include tax, which we've talked about throughout the year, how to calculate tax. And the designer, their job is, after all the items are purchased, they'll have to get the appropriate measurements and start mapping out the room. After they've all completed their individual roles, they'll come back together, and these are pretty much everything that they'll have to hand in. just as the process was going. It's just an accumulation. And the evaluation, unfortunately my rubric was bigger than a 4x4 grid. So here's the evaluation that I put together. The main items is their brainstorming list, their Excel spreadsheet, the floor plan, how they remained in budget, the answers to the questions, and the final presentation. And then I also thought it was important for that individual contribution, or how much effort the student put in towards the group, because I'm sure we all know that group grades can be a little difficult when you have that one student who didn't participate at all. So, for the most part it is a group grade, but then there is that individual grade as well. Okay, and my conclusion, I would congratulate them. This is, I think, a very detailed Webquest, and like I said, it will take, about 2 weeks maybe. But I would like them to just kind of take their final project and go home and show it to a parent or an older sibling if possible, and see what they think about their newly designed room. Is it acceptable? Is it ideal? Just going home and having that conversation. And once they get that feedback, I want them to come back to their group members and share and discuss, what their family members thought of it. Okay. And then my teacher page, I just, gave a little introduction to the teachers, what they can expect when looking at this Webquest, any of the standards, and just talked about the specific skills that students needed to use, the collaboration, decision making, and getting their creative sides out for this project. And then I listed all the standards. The credits, like I said, I mainly got this from designyourdorm.com, an interactive web page, but I was able to tie it more to the educational project aspect of it. And then I just, again, mentioned to the teachers the timeline and, what they would need in order to implement this into their classroom. And that is it.